sure it's clear. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm Josie Cabalerro. I am a former candidate for Montgomery County Council at large. I also am an equality leader across the country. I am the president of the Transgender American Veteran Association, and I also am a director for a national nonprofit that actually trains trans candidates nationwide as well. I had the opportunity to actually run for office with a public financing system, and Brother Khan told me to come with the numbers, so I did come with some of the numbers here. So in my race, I ran for county council at large. There was a total of 17 candidates running for a total of 4 seats. So it was already a very impacted field. So with there were a total of 4, or really 3 corporate backed candidates that were given from the outside a total of $789,000, nearly $190,000, so $789,991. And combined, those candidates had $1.5 million spent on their race. The average money spent per vote was about $12.09 a vote. So to put that into perspective, I received about 42,000 votes, exactly 41,813. And I finished within 1% of the actual win number, which was really great considering I only spent a total of $4.37. So $4.37 a vote. I raised roughly about $175,000 total, but what that equated to was about $80,000 raised, which turned into about $175,000, making me an incredibly competitive candidate, allowing me to finish within 1% of the actual mark of the vote. I will say that wouldn't have been possible without public matching. So public matching really does make the difference, because I was limited to only being able to raise $500 per person. My average donation was about $48. So it really does make a huge difference when you are running a race like this, and it really makes a massive difference considering that my opponent nearly spent $12 a vote versus my $4 a vote, and I almost won the election. And that is with an historically low voter turnout as well. And I wanted to come back to the county executive race because it's a perfect illustration of what it looked like, and I'm talking about Montgomery County Council. So when you look at the corporate backed candidates, outside spending that we know of, it was about $1.9 million. However, total, because that candidate did not choose to do public financing, meaning that they were able to raise $6,000 an individual, and also from PACs and organizations. That candidate total, with PACs and his money included, totaled $4.5 million. So that candidate ended up losing. Will Juando ended up winning that race. But that corporate candidate, when you do the math, spent $103 a vote. That is unbelievable to think that a candidate can spend $103 a vote compared to Will Juando's average, the dollars that he spent per vote, which was a total of $11.70. So with Will Juando being able to use public financing, he was able to raise about $1.5 million roughly, but he was able to do that through public finance, which is an incredible feat considering that he was able to get 40% of the vote compared to the corporate backed candidate's 33% of the vote. And what's interesting about this number, and I'm going to say this as a point of my own, it's a little bragging point here, the corporate candidate in the county executive race got 44.5 thousand votes. I got 42,000 votes. Now, I'm just saying, like, the fact that a candidate that spent nearly $5 million on a campaign compared to my $175,000, I was nearly able to get as many votes as that candidate, really speaks to the need for public financing, because that allowed me to get that far, and I am going to run again. I mean, I have to at this point with being so close. And, you know, there's a lot of lessons to be learned when you think about a race that was incredibly close like this. And what we know is primaries are really where all the money is being spent. And the reason that is because the corporate powers that be understand that they have the ability to have a lower voter turnout so they can spend more money per vote, so that way they can have a better opportunity to possibly win these races. So when you're able to really think about that, it really makes you think, do we need to reform how we even do the process altogether? Do primaries actually serve the purpose that we hope that they serve? And what I'm starting to see when you take a look at what's happening in Michigan, which is also historically high, expensive race from outside money through organizations like APAC and developers and BlackRock and so many other millions, $40+ million spent on the candidate that is not the progressive. You see that they're spending all that money because they know if it was a general election, they wouldn't stand a chance. So is it an opportunity to not only just speak about public financing for all campaigns, but think about actually having ranked choice voting and only doing general races? Because if we do general races with ranked choice voting, then we are able to do something that I think is really critical, is meeting voters where they are. We know historically at this point that voters tend to only vote in general elections. And so if we know that through the data, that voters will typically vote through general elections, then meet the voters there and give them the choices from the beginning. Because the fact that we are expecting general voters to vote in primaries to pick the people that the general voters are voting on is obviously a system that is a race to the bottom. Because we're allowing the corporate powers that be to be able to use these PACs and to use this money to be able to then essentially drive who wins in the general, giving voters less opportunities to actually do the right thing and have the opportunity to vote for the person with the most information. Because one other thing I would like to note what happened in Montgomery County is there was a deceptive mailer that was done. Now, that deceptive mailer, nobody knows how much money was spent on that. It was a collusion with the state senators at the time. And when you're talking about races with a 1% margin, where we have money that's going in a deceptive way to make it look like the Democratic Party endorsed these candidates when that didn't happen, but there's no guardrails to protect against that, where nobody went to jail for things like that, is a problem. Because that deceptive mailer could have made the difference in that 1% race. And it makes me upset, it makes me angry. Maybe I'm a little bitter, but it just shows how hard we have to work. And when you think about outside spending as well, this is also a wake-up call for our progressive organizations as well, is, for example, in my race, only $6,000 was spent in outside money and I'm talking about unions, progressive organizations, and many other organizations. That's all they spent. While they spent nearly $300,000 per corporate candidate in the at-large race. So we need to fight back harder. And I know that's more work on our progressive organizations, but it cannot be on the shoulders of the candidates to be able to win these races when we are completely being outspent 3-1. And 3-1 is just in my race. There are many candidates that we're going to be speaking to who are outspent by multiples. But yes, and I'm happy to have this conversation with the rest of you. Thank you.